Should I be considered unreasonable because I'm hesitant to have my sister-in-law move in, mostly due to my dogs? She just doesn't like them, you see. Due to the whole pandemic situation, she, a 19-year-old woman, lost her employment and stopped making rent payments. Now, as a result, she got evicted from her place and has no current living arrangements. Her folks reside in another town, and we're the only family she has nearby. Consequently, she inquired of my husband, a 28-year-old man, and me, a 24-year-old female, if she could live with us while she looks for another job, and we agreed. But then, she inquired about what we planned to do with our dogs. I questioned her further, and she replied that she wouldn't be able to stay if we sent the dogs away because she is frightened of them. We have 2 Great Danes and 1 Greyhound, and all 3 are incredibly good-natured. They've never shown any aggression or harmed anyone. I know they wouldn't. I've had a Greyhound for 8 years and the other 2 for 5 years, so I know they would never hurt anyone. My husband and I explained to her that if she wanted to stay here, she would have to accept living with them, that the dogs mean a lot to us, and that this is their home too, so they aren't going anywhere. She responded that she is absolutely terrified of them and that she wouldn't be able to share living space with them because of her childhood experience. When she was around 5, a Greyhound bit her, leaving a significant scar on her arm, and ever since then she's held a deep aversion to dogs, especially ones like mine. We explained to her that she couldn't remain living here, and now everyone in the family is upset with us. My husband's parents believe we're being inconsiderate, and my mother-in-law is especially angry with me because she claims my sister-in-law is like my own sister, and that it's unfair for me to treat her this way. She said this because I've been with my husband since I was just 14 years old, and his entire family always treated me as though I was just another member of their family. But truthfully, that doesn't even weigh on me. My dogs are like my children, and I love them as much as I love her, and I will not change my stance. Am I the bad guy in this situation? Now, let's move on to the top comment. You're not the bad guy at all. The dogs are like your children. That person is an adult, and she can go live with another relative if she thinks her situation is that tough. She is not your problem to solve. The dogs are, this is true. She should go back to her parents' place. She needs to learn to make compromises, or her life will be really challenging. To be fair, a deep-seated fear resulting from her childhood experience is enough for me to understand a sister-in-law who is not willing to compromise. Yet she knows the dogs are there, and she should never have asked you to get rid of them and find a different solution. The sister-in-law is the actual problem. Start a group chat with all your in-laws. Your sister-in-law is about to become homeless. Why haven't all of you collectively contributed money to pay for an apartment and her living expenses? You are essentially abandoning her. She is defenseless. I really think this is accurate. I know Binai would be so willing to help out, but owning our dogs puts a strain on our finances, which is a shame. And then I chuckled out loud. I laughed even harder, not the jerk. This is my preferred reaction. A perfectly wicked degree of it, not the jerk. I can see why she's scared, but I don't think it's fair that she'd ask me to get rid of my dogs. Time to tell the next story. Am I the bad guy here for refusing to let my sister move in because I'm not a fan of dogs? To clarify, I'm a 27-year-old guy, I own my own home, and I'd say I'm doing pretty well financially. My sister somehow got involved in a multi-level marketing scheme and is now in debt and unemployed. My sister has 2 dogs, one is a German Shepherd and the other is an Akita. I just don't like dogs and I probably never will. It's just a personal issue. So now my sister wants to move in with me so she can start looking for a new job and conserve some money on rent. I informed her that it wouldn't work out because her dogs would not be allowed. She went on and on about how well-behaved they are and that one of them is an emotional support animal. It really bothers me when someone claims their dog is an emotional support animal, and suddenly you're supposed to accept the dog. In my opinion, it's really the same thing as if someone just picked up a stray off the street and decided to own it, because that's essentially what an emotional support animal is, just a pet. I explained to her that I wouldn't, and she accused me of being cold-hearted, suggesting I just keep the dog in a single room. That plan wouldn't work since my sister would have to walk and care for the dog, which would ultimately mean it would mess up my house, and isolating it somewhere felt wrong. She called me a jerk because I was letting her deal with this. Am I in the wrong here? The situation revolves around an emotional support animal. I believe the idea is helpful and there are individuals who genuinely benefit from them, Yet so many individuals exploit the regulations so they can bring their dogs everywhere. Most dog owners I know will magically produce a doctor's note and poof asterisk. They have an emotional support animal. I'm in the clear. Folks behave however they want. Some individuals even purchase emotional support animal certificates online if they really want to go all out. I am not the jerk. Folks are not actually pretending the bogus emotional support animal business isn't a booming enterprise. It is incredibly huge. Nearly every dog owner I encounter tells me either 1. Their dog is an emotional support animal, or 2. They got it from a rescue organization. It's funny, you really have a purebred golden retriever puppy from a rescue, right? A local woman made a huge deal because a bookshop wouldn't let her alleged dog into the store. For starters, the dog was a Chihuahua. Also, the dog had a history of defecating in the store, snapping at individuals, and growling at them. The owner had reached their limit, and the woman kicked up a massive fuss, even going to the local newspaper. Everyone found the situation hilarious. All right, let's just disregard the whole ESA situation because that's not the main point here. The real problem is that even though you want to support your sister, you really don't care for dogs. And if she ends up living with you, she'll be bringing in 2 huge, fluffy dogs. I absolutely adore dogs, and because of that, I'm going to tell you that your sister's being foolish. There's simply no way you could keep an Akita or a Shepherd. And I'm guessing you mean a German Shepherd in a single room in a safe or healthy way. It would be either unkind or possibly hazardous. It's just not a good environment for those dogs, particularly breeds like those. Dehal is not even remotely, a dog owner. They drop fur, and even the best trained, well-maintained dogs still bring a certain odor with them. Also, you'd have to deal with items in your home that you dislike. Neither you nor those dogs need that kind of situation. Let's move on. Am I the bad guy for being truthful with my sister that I wouldn't take on a stepmother role again if I knew how it would be? Considering that, this might appear to be a bad thing from just the title alone, so I'm mentally preparing myself for the comments section's verdict. My sister, who's 26, is seeing a man who has 2 children with his former partner. As for me, I'm 46 and have been married to my husband for longer than 17 years. When we first got together, he was a divorced dad with 3 kids. My stepchildren are all grown up now. My husband is even a grandfather. I can truly say it hasn't been easy at all. Furthermore, I don't really think it was the best fit for me in some ways. I love my family, so I would never abandon them now. I'm aware our families experienced more sorrow than joy, honestly. Despite the 2 amazing children I have, and the joy of my marriage, I still feel this way. I always felt like I was on the outside looking in. My stepchildren never truly considered me a part of the family. I'm not grandma, while my husband is grandpa. Even though things are calm and there's no drama, just a lack of interest, it's still hard to swallow. It breaks my heart a little to realize, even after all this time, they could easily detach themselves from me. And even though they treat my biological children fine, they don't treat them like siblings in the same way they treat each other. It's a challenge. I'm not sure I was the best fit for that aspect of this family dynamic. My sister and I, at any rate, always vowed to be candid with each other. Being much older than her, I admit I used to try to protect her too much when she was younger, which she truly despised. So when she posed the questions about regrets and whether I'd do it all again, I gave her my honest thoughts. And when she wanted to know if I thought she'd be able to handle a situation, I told her the truth. I don't think she can because she's even more sensitive than I am. Plus, she's starting with expectations that might not be realistic. Now she's angry and told me I was an insensitive jerk and that I should have lied. Am I the bad guy here? Now for the viewers' comments. I'm not a bad person. She asked for your honest opinion and you gave it to her. Yes, when kids are involved, it's best not to sugarcoat things. Not a bad person. I've learned that it's pointless to ask questions if you're not prepared to handle the response. I've got a sister. She quizzes Opie about what she really thinks. Opie, in turn, shares her truthful assessment that my sister overreacts. My sister gets upset because she doesn't think she is too sensitive. That's not cool. Had you been dishonest, she would have confronted you later and been mad for not being upfront. It's my thought that your sister is probably realizing that being a step-parent is difficult and she is directing her stress toward you. That's just how it is. Being a step-parent can be tough. It's the absolute truth. It's impossible to understand all the challenges and how draining it is unless you've lived it yourself. You were right to be honest when she asked you. It doesn't necessarily mean she'll change how she feels about things. People often need to figure things out for themselves through their own experiences. From one stepmom to another, I understand. I know how you feel. Okay, now on to the next part. Am I out of line for not letting my sister have the larger room? Some background information is in order. My sister, who is 22, and her boyfriend are staying at my parents' place while they save for a house. I am 27 and live with my husband, who is 32, along with our 2 kids, a 4-year-old daughter and a 21-month-old son. My folks and my husband and I agreed we wanted to lease a bigger house so we could both save money and so they could assist more with childcare because I'm starting college in September. I figured we'd split our housing expenses based on what we're all spending and to help us all save equally. My folks would contribute £1,500, and my husband and I were thinking of paying somewhere between £800 and £900. My sister and her boyfriend were planning on moving in with my parents temporarily while they build up their savings. Presently, they're all ready and will keep paying my parents £100 a month apiece. My sister has a full-time job as a nurse, and her boyfriend works part-time in a retail job. Ultimately, we're hoping to buy a house with my parents so my dad can retire comfortably and we can all benefit from lower living costs. However, with every house we've viewed so far, my sister has insisted on getting the largest bedroom, other than the master bedroom. That's meant for my folks. She's been making excuses, like the smaller room would be more convenient for the kids, which isn't true. Even when it was, I told her I thought the smaller room would be better for my husband and me, and that she spends more time in her room than I do, saying she needs the space for a vanity. I haven't just passively agreed to this. I've contested it, emphasizing that it's where I intend to live long-term, sharing it with our parents, while she'll only be there for a limited time because she still lives at home. When I've brought this up, my mom got angry, saying she wouldn't get involved and that we'd just cancel the whole idea. The long and short of it is that ever since we lost my grandparents 5 years ago, my mom has been overly lenient with my sister, essentially letting her have her way because she can be argumentative and obstinate. I'm wondering, am I in the wrong for not giving my sister what she wants, and then trading rooms after she leaves, or should I stand my ground? Let's consider the most popular comments. Seems I'm not the bad guy, but based on how things sound, I'd hold off on buying a house with our parents until my sister is no longer living there. She's got a lot of nerve, considering she hardly contributes financially, which really fits the definition of a freeloader. If my mom won't support me, I'd wait and buy later or simply avoid buying with them. Honestly, I wouldn't want to buy property with our parents even if they could convince their daughter to move out. I'm saying this because of what happens when the parents are gone. I'm sure both of us and my sister would inherit the property together. It seems like Opie is going to have some conflict with his sister, and it doesn't sound like it's going to be pleasant. Not the jerk. It seems like his sister is aware that she's in a favorable position and wants to hold on to it. It's unlikely she'll be leaving anytime soon. I'd strongly recommend, should your sister and her significant other end up moving in with you, that they have a set deadline to accumulate savings and eventually move out, or that they pay the appropriate amount in rent. If the relationship with your parents allows for open and honest communication, I think you should sit them down and explore all the possible choices. If your connection with your parents isn't one where you can have frank discussions, then I wouldn't buy a house with them. My mother and I own and share a multi-unit property, and it only functions because we've established clear ground rules, and we each have completely separate living quarters. Even so, it took some getting used to at first. Not the bad guy. Stand firm on what you believe. Remember, you're putting your money into this house, not your sister. Now about this final story. Am I the bad guy for saying I want to have quality time with my mom, not babysit? I'm a 21-year-old woman, and I live in a different state than my mom and stepdad. I went to visit them for a few days a couple weeks back. I was there to spend time with my mom because it had been too long since we'd connected, and truthfully, I've been missing her. Phone calls just don't replicate the experience. She ended up needing to cover a few late shifts, so some of the evenings we had planned were just me, alone. My stepdad's daughter, who is technically my stepsister since we shared a home for 7 years growing up, has children and left them with my stepdad. Then he wanted to go out and requested that I watch them. I refused. He claimed it would be a good way to get acquainted with my nieces. I responded that I was there to be with my mom, not to provide childcare. He became angry. I'd never met those girls before, after all. I hadn't seen his daughter in a long time. She had some serious problems with her father getting married to my mother, and being younger than her, I was her easiest scapegoat. Essentially, she decided she didn't want me involved in her life. They didn't know who I was in any way. He presented me as their aunt, and they told him their mother said they didn't have an aunt or grandma, just him. To me, that was a perfectly good reason for him to respect my decision. However, he kept pressing the issue, and he told me I was being rude because I refused to babysit, and so on. My mom said I did nothing wrong and that it was inappropriate to ask that of me, especially since he knows even she isn't allowed to watch the kids or even be in the house with them without him. This was according to his daughter's rules. As a result, there was a big conflict between my mom and him. But my aunt, who is my mom's sister, said I could have handled things better and it might have been resolved. Am I the bad guy? I don't think so. He was trying to avoid responsibility and got exposed. Now they're manipulating you. You are absolutely correct about him. He was definitely doing just that, too, not the jerk. If someone doesn't trust you enough to handle things the right way, then it's not on you to keep an eye on those people. It sounds like that stepdad is trying to make you feel guilty, I think. Frankly, I wonder if she even knew I was going to be there. It seems his daughter would have gone completely crazy if I'd agreed. Definitely not the jerk. He was in the wrong. I'm relieved your mom stood up for you. My aunt, who's my mom's sister, said I could have handled things better, and that might have calmed things down. Oh, sure. As if calmed down means avoiding a colossal, world-ending disaster. The second their mom learned that Opie, who apparently doesn't even exist, was watching her kids, she'd completely lose it. She won't even allow Opie's mom to watch the kids without their grandfather there.